This is the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome back to the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. Today we are going to be talking about how to deal with crazy shit in your life, which we will call situational alchemy in a more professional term, rather than how to deal with fucked up shit. Today, I'm here with a close friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine. This is Marci Lock, aka SunDari. She's an amazing human. She is an alchemist in all sorts of ways, and also a mentor in many, many ways, which she can tell you about, so I don't fuck it up.
You never fuck it up, babes. I'm like, Yeah.
Thank you so much for driving up here.
I'm so excited to be with you.
How may we address you appropriately?
Well,
Your Highness.
Royal Alien Galactic Goddess, Multidimensional Mystic, Palladian Priestess, SunDari.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, she does have pants on for those of you watching. Maybe. Allegedly, she has pants on.
Maybe you don't have pants on.
I may or may not have pants on.
It's kind of Bali life. We were talking about this. I'm like, I pretty much wear a bikini top for everything. You know.
She asked me, she's like, can I wear a bikini top for this episode? I'm like, do you?
Well, I came in a bikini top. I was like, this is what I do. I was
going to wear the same thing. It would have been awkward.
Yeah. Oh, I have one in my bag. Do you want to change?
I think... I don't know if it'll fit in my cups.
But you got to show your bling. You got some nice
Thank
bling.
you so much for bringing me this beautiful necklace. I appreciate that. If you can see it hidden within all this chest hair. Today, we wanted to talk about how to alchemize situations, especially situations that could be very challenging. Yeah. And this is something that you've been practicing. Fucked up shit. Yeah. Just dealing with things that are draining, things that are ongoing and active situations, things that will stress you out, drain your energy, take your focus away and bring you out of a state of joy and abundance and put you into a state of feeling like shit, and then attracting in more shitty situations, and then making you feel shitty to be around, and making you altogether have a shittier life. Like, how about we stop that?
Shit. Are we done with the shit?
How do we stop the shit show? Yeah. And create an upward spiral through some Jedi mind tricks that you've been studying for quite a long time, and that you have some good insight on. And both of us have dealt with some crazy situations in the last little while. So how to just like thanks life.
Yeah. That's the first alchemy tool.
Yeah. Laugh at the situation. First of all, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well,
let's do the intro thing.
I mean, I guess you would call me a spiritual teacher to be the label meaning if people wanted to put words on it. This is probably most aligned. Yes, I've been a mentor for many years. I went from, coaching people at $1 million level, some of the biggest businesses in the world, to I have a retreat company. I have, a podcast, a show, a TV show, book, all the things, and just ways that we get to share but what I really would say is just like what aligns the most for me is I'm just here to be a fucking alchemist. Like I'm known as the alchemist of light. Just in my own journey of a lot of shit, getting to alchemize anything that's not on the highest vibration of my like, fuck yes, magic. Right. Being able to be here for my greatest joy and pleasure. And, you ask me like, what do you really do? And I'm like, well, I do whatever the fuck I want to do. Like I do what nourishes my soul. What's a fuck yes for me? So there's been so many stages of that journey. I mean, I was a nutrition fitness expert on TV many years ago and started in gyms as a teaching mindset and aligning to your belief systems, and upgraded to emotional alchemy, and then working with plant medicine. So I have a retreat company working with medicines for like 14 years and traveling the world, and just continue to grow on our journey. And I think that's the first step of all of this, is to like realize that this is all just our own perfect fucking journey. Every single one of us, wherever we're at. I love how Ram Dass says, you're always in the perfect place and time and experience of your evolution. So, fucked up shit, great shit, amazingness, the gift is in the shit. Like wherever you're at, it's all for us. And it's all our glorious gift to like expand into having more fun and play. You and I obviously got to have dinner together like a week ago, and come to my house, I got cook for you. Yeah. I was like, I love that I love someone so much. I get to cook for them. And I felt like, it was so much fun. And just to update and share with each other our real, authentic, vulnerable, wow, this is the shit I've been alchemizing. This is the stuff that's really triggered me and been wow, allowed me to see a lot and learn from each other's reflections. You're a great reflection for me and a teacher for me in many ways. And so, yeah, I think we're all just here to alchemize, to like, we're here for the vastness of experience. So there is no even good or bad, wrong or right. It's just like literally the vastness of experience our souls are here for.
Yeah.
I believe our soul's greatest desire is self-realization, is like, wow, knowing, how else do I put it? Wow, knowing, I experienced that, and you know, and it's so like, love it, compassion for it, you know, be on the journey of it, alchemize the shit out of it.
I think both of us did a really good job of sharing, like, oh, we've been going through some shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you consciously bitch about your problems?
Yeah.
It's like, we're pretty good at that because like both of us were talking about, you know, just going through some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't pick up on any feelings of like, you know, if you're in like a victim pity party and like people are complaining about their lives and you're just like, it's that energy of victimhood is so draining.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, we went through some shit. We talk about it and it's a completely different energy.
Yeah.
How would you explain how to consciously bitch about your problems or just share that you're going through something with someone?
Well, I think the first thing is ownership.
Yeah.
It's like, first off, again, when we can witness all the things, there isn't like an attachment. And that is a mastery. That is an alchemy tool in and of itself. It's like, I can notice I felt triggered, or I can notice I felt it really upset me, or I felt frustrated, or I wanted to bolt, or like I can witness all these things, but I don't go, this is me, this is mine. Like it's like the subconscious human mind is always trying to attach to something to, in a way, know it exists. This is the egoic mind, the second level mind. So it's like, I am sad. It's like, I noticed I felt fucking pissed about that. And I got to look at that and witness that and see that. And so it's like, it's witnessing, sharing without grasping. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Like it's without like saying, you know, this person did this to me. So, I mean, and when we come back to consciousness, it's like always take radical responsibility. It's like, what do I see that is mine that I get to own? What is still triggering? Where am I still curious? Like with you, I was like, I am really curious of how I witnessed something that you shared. And it really inspired me as to how you're like, hey, stand in your fucking truth. This over here, not okay. Like, let people know that they can stay safe with that. And I'm like, I really struggled to share that part because I always take it as like the spiritual high road, which is like, okay, I created it. You know, how did I attract that? What within me, you know, is that? Because you attract what you are. Like, I do all the spiritual things. And in no way do I want to say, this motherfucker is a bitch. Like, you know, like that stuff was fucked up.
Yeah,
and that was not okay. And I go, okay, why did I attract that? How did I attract it? And that in my own vulnerable journey has allowed me to kind of put up with shit.
Yeah.
Until I really see the clarity of like, oh, this is teaching me discernment, what I will no longer tolerate anymore, my boundaries, communication, etc. So I think when we come back to, like I was saying in the beginning, that we just come from, it's okay that we have these experiences. But one piece of this I find very interesting is like you described in the beginning where, you know, if someone says, oh man, money, blah, 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 blah. And you go, oh, I don't want to be around that. I don't want to, that's going to affect me. Have you noticed that? That's like a spiritual game where it's like, oh, this person's low vibe. I don't want to be around them. That's actually saying, I don't hold my fucking power. Like I can be there for you in front of you. If you did completely bitch in every way, it's like co-regulation. It's like, yeah, babes, I hear you. That was fucking frustrating. And that was challenging. Oh my, wow. You really had to deal with that. But if I go, oh, you're talking about, I can't handle.
Yeah.
That's really shows your level of ability, your emotional maturity, your emotional intelligence. So I think one thing that's really important here is that we upgrade as humanity is we all are just expanding our capacity for emotional maturity and intelligence. Like, I got you, babe. I have capacity for it all. Yeah. You can fucking cry, scream, this, that, da, 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 da. And I don't have an idea that you're anything. It's just, oh, like you're really alchemizing some things, babe. I got you. And I think that's also necessary. Sometimes like I might just be like, Erin, I just want to cry. Oh man.
I feel like women are better at this.
Yeah.
Because like it took a long time for me to be okay to hold space for like these type of emotions.
Yeah.
And so when there was like men, we go into fix it mode, you know? And so like my old pattern would have been like, how do I fix exactly what you're going through? Like you're going through some shit and you just want to cry. Like, well, why don't you do, and I try to coach someone through it, which is obviously not the right call all the time. Most of the time, especially without consent. So going into fix it mode and trying to, especially if you have shitty advice, like all these things are no. Sometimes all you need to be doing is to hold space for something and be like, and listen.
And the co-regulation that happens.
And have the skill to not take that on, and have the skill to hold space for that effectively for someone just to talk what they need to talk about, and then being like, what do you need right now? Like that took me a long time because I didn't have the skills for that situation at that time to deal with that. So my pattern in the past would have been like, oh man, I'm too busy for that shit. And I'd be avoidant. And so I'd be avoidant in that pattern of like, I don't really want to deal with that.
Like, that's like coming from the upper high road that goes, that's your shit. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's too much drama for me. And that was something that I realized I just wasn't comfortable enough to actually experience those emotions because I wasn't comfortable experiencing those emotions within me. So when there would be those extreme emotions, I'd be so used to suppressing those that I'd be like, no, I don't want. I don't even touch that shit because I don't want to open that tap of what's not been expressed in me for so many years, because that's not okay for men to do that. And it's just like, and that was my belief system obviously before, or just the programming. And then when I got better at this, and honestly, I think Vipassana and meditation really helped because I would just experience and not react. And so like you could have a full on 5-minute like rant about something and I'd just be like, word. And I'm fully there for you though. It's not flippant. I'm not actually like, I'm not there. I'm totally there. I feel everything, but I react in an emotional space to nothing. It is the best case. Obviously, I'm not a Jedi at this shit totally, but I would like, I could then hang with you and be with you for what you got to go through. And I wouldn't need to take that on. And then I would ask permission about what you'd want, or I'd say something. Obviously my pattern is humor, which is, we'll talk into that, but humor is how I really hold space with my friends, is like, okay, say something funny to take the emotional charge or the lighten the load a little bit when I felt like it was appropriate.
Bring some energy shift into it.
Yeah. And so that was kind of like, I think, an important way for me to be able to deal with intense emotions, holding space for other people, but also within myself. That I feel like that's like my male pattern edge going into that, because I had to really go through it because I wasn't always good at this. What do you see as a better way to deal with the emotions within? You know, if you're going through your
you nailed
active
it.
stage.
You nailed it in that, like, I mean, I have 2 babies. They're now big. They're not babies. I don't know how it's possible that I am the age that I am and they're the age they are. My babies are literally 21 and almost 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Super mom.
I know. But it's like realizing, as I did a lot of stuff around conscious relationships and awakening relationships and parenting and things as well. It's like, you know, people react to, they can't handle a child having an emotion if they haven't learned to be with their own emotions and their own feelings, right? And so it's like, you described it perfectly. And it's like when we go, oh, that makes me uncomfortable, I'm just going to high road it or say that has nothing to do with me or block these different energies and emotions, when it's really how can we allow ourselves to have the capacity to be with all of us. One of the tools that I love that one of the spiritual teachers gave me, like when in my time in India and whatnot, was also in this practice of how we can recognize that we are in every, you know, we're the microcosm of the macrocosm. You study gene keys, anything like this, you know, there's infinite, there's so many different aspects of our being. We have every trait, every aspect within ourselves, right? So it's like in any moment, I might be feeling fear and I can be like, okay, in this field of experience, fear can exist. And what's the opposite of that? Like, what would be the opposite of fear be for you? Love. So, and in this field of experience, love can exist. Can I actually recognize that within myself, I could feel fear and I also could feel love, right? So there's the polarities, like this can exist and this can exist, right? The next Jedi trick to that is when I remind myself that if I no longer identify with this, with the fear or the situation, with this idea, this behavior, et cetera, as me or mine, it's just information. Okay, people, it's all just information. It's all just energy. Like, oh my God, like it's not me. It's not this thing that I have to attach to. It's just information. So the experience, the emotion, when we start to see things through a clear lens, it's just giving me information. The information is like, what is my meaning, label, story, my program about this? What's my pattern or behavior that comes up? What are my ideas? What does this bring up within me that is just asking me to get curious and see like, oh, this is what's really happening. So it's almost in a way of like, when we strip back from like the grasping onto things, and we just recognize that through this new lens, everything is just infinite possibility. Really, it is. It's like, okay, so this can exist, and I'm actually not that thing. If I recognize or I allow myself to witness I'm not that thing, how would I feel? And you'll feel a shift in your system, go, oh, I'd feel free because I'm not now identifying with that as mine. That's just an old memory. You and I were talking about that. It was like, in the big scheme of things, this amazing, beautiful upgrade that you're dealing with right now, upgrades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that's teaching you so much. You're going to look back and be like, that was such a little blip. That was just a little thing. And we go, oh, in my past experience, that was the way that I was able to deal with that. But I learned all these Jedi skill sets and tools and got to realign and organize my life into a greater experience because of that. And something that, so for me, I go back to codes of remembrance. I swear I have, I think that's what my TV show is called, like Divine Life Mastery Codes. I'm like, I like teaching like codes to live in our divinity. And I go back to these codes that assist me in just remembering when I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Chaos, fucked up shit is just, really, it's creation energy. It's the feminine. Like the feminine is like, I'm going to churn some shit up and we're going to move stuff around. And like the universe is just moving all the pieces for you to realign it to what you're saying you're really here for, what your intentions are, what your desires are, because your desires are for a reason. So if I'm like, I have the most amazing, glorious life with the coolest besties and my play and my prosperity months, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like then all these things that are churning that allows me to go, I will no longer tolerate this or put myself in this box or etc. have to be reorganized. And so sometimes I just bring myself back to the context of going, okay, breathe versus like binge, or breathe versus like escape. And like, okay, so my commitment to myself is always like, when I feel that any energy that isn't what I want to be experiencing, peace is my highest priority. If I'm not at peace with it, I'm going to like, okay, let's be with this. Let's see what's happening. And this is a choice of mastery. Like you're saying, can I practice this? Yeah. That I can be with emotions and I can see what's here to be able to alchemize. Yeah. So it becomes like a fun game. Yeah. It really does. Even when it's really fucked up shit. And then we talk about it and we laugh about it, but like,
totally. I I always think of it, obviously, like, I like how you say it in spiritual goddess language. And I think of it like hyper practical man language, where I'm just like, you're playing a game right now, and this is the information, the feedback that's coming to this game. Mm-hmm. And this game right now is making me feel sad or making me feel depressed. This information is making me feel a certain way, but you're not sad, you're not depressed. You're just experiencing what you're going through, and these are the emotions it's giving you. Yeah. So it's like, okay, that gives me some space from this emotional space from what's happening, so I can observe what I'm feeling, and I'm like, all right, I can take a step back, and then I'll be like, all right. Does this fucking matter? Like I'll take like will this matter in 5 years? Yeah. Like, will this matter in 10 years? Yep. Will this matter in a certain context of your life? Like, will this fucking matter? Because I remember certain, situations that had happened to me back in the dope game, and we were talking right before we started, was like I remember a couple where I got like robbed by older dudes, and it really hurt. It broke my heart because they were supposedly friends of mine. They came to my sister's wedding and all this stuff, and it was like, fuck, like it felt like my world was ending. I was 21, so like it really
your world was ending. You were 21.
I was 21. Right. It was a big deal for me at 21. But if I knew then, if it was like, will this matter in 5 years? Like, then it wouldn't have been such a big deal.
I think it's a great statement to bring you back to context. And that's really the thing of the alchemy, is like, change the state into like, let's see clearly. Let's feel clearly.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you're really seeing tunnel vision over this right now is such a fucking big deal. And so it's like, okay. Well, firstly, are you going to survive this situation? It's like, yeah, you're going to survive this situation. Okay. Is this going to matter in 10 years? It's like, well, maybe not. It's like, okay, well, how can you handle this situation to make it matter in 5 years as a positive? And so this is something I had to do with like my accident happening, was like, handle this in a way that's going to make yourself proud, and handle it in a way that's going to benefit the next 5 years. So don't be a bitch about it, but also like, do the things, like take the supplements, get the care, do everything you need to do, like really go for it in your recovery, really do it, because that's really going to matter in 5 years. So it's like, what can you do that'll make this matter in 5 years for a benefit? And so I have to get like super practical with these things. Like I need to.
Yeah,
in
you have
my
to have
mind.
the practical tools.
I always have to
There's
think
like
that
the context that I think supports people. So they go, no, that's why I'm going to implement the practical tools.
Yeah.
That's why I get to call myself to action and responsibility here. Yeah.
And then I'll try to like chunk that right down to like, what's going to make you proud for the end of the week? And it's like, okay. What's going to make you proud for the end of the day? And for me, like guys, like I have crazy ADD. So it's like, okay, what's going to make you proud for the end of the hour?
Yeah.
And that always like makes a big difference for me, because then it changes how I'm going to act. So then I won't, okay, it's like order a large pizza and just like smoke a joint or something. It's like, is that going to make this hour great? It's like, what if you meditated for 5-10 minutes, went for a walk instead, and then see how you feel? And when it's like you're really in the depth of some crazy shit happening, those like 5-10 minutes really matter.
They do.
Especially
they can take you down this path or that. It's like, which way are you going to go?
Yeah. Right? Especially if you have a tendency to spiral. You know, it's like this 5-10 minutes could turn into a whole day, or it could turn into a bunch of bad choices and substance abuse or whatever it is. It's like, make this matter.
Yeah.
That's been helping for situational alchemy. But there's this other part that I want to talk to you about, was like this whole spiritual bypass type of energy that can go around in the spiritual communities of like, what within you is called this in, or like the frequency you embody is going to continue this pattern in you and stuff like that, which like, sure, but also that can really piss people off when you hear it that way. And you're like, motherfucker,
you vibrationally attracted being treated like shit and having this scamming and Yeah, I get it.
What's your opinion on all of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love to come from the viewpoint of getting curious about all perceptions, right? And like, it's like in years to go, like what's actually going to support and affect me right now. One of the things that comes through is if we use human words for it, it's like every problem is actually the solution. So I go back to like, okay, if I'm saying this thing is a problem, it's actually my solution, right? It was for me. So when I give myself that context, then I can lean into okay, so let's look at it from an objective truth standpoint. You're like, this fucking shit, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, from objective truth, this is what happened. This is the information I got. This was the thing, instead of adding story to it. So that's one aspect I want to just share in that. But when we have something like, let's say this, you are what you attract, right? Like you attract what you are. So I felt a lot of shame with some of the recent things that I experienced, that I was just like, how the fuck did I attract that? How did I not catch that? How did I not see those signs? How did I like felt this shame of like, I'm supposedly, have been doing this for a while. Like I've been deep in the devotion to my divinity for 20 some odd years and a high level mentor and How the fuck? And as I look at it, I can go, well, if I attract what I am, I can do this. I think both is important. Let me say that. It's important for us to take radical responsibility. It happened for the perfect reason, which might not necessarily be this cut and dry, like, well, you attracted someone scamming you, so you vibrationally, that's what you deserve.
Right?
That's
like,
how it feels.
I'm like,
what?
Like,
that's not very nice.
I went through this whole loop of that. So like, context of the situation, everybody, I'm happy to talk about this one because this guy needs to be outed. Not just to talk shit, but like also give you some context. So I had leased a Mercedes under my company and I had a brand new car and I was all excited about it. And then I had to come out to Bali for a couple months to just handle business stuff. And I subleased it to this dude who I expected to be a good dude. I was on his podcast. His name's Julio Carrillo. And we had mutual friends, like a high-ranking police officer and stuff like that. So I was like, should be okay. And it's only 2 months I'll be gone. And then he paid month by month for 2 months. It was okay, all good. And then when he found out, I'm like, I need to stay out here longer. One of the business sales flopped and I got to take over 2 businesses now that I wasn't managing, but I have to manage them now. So it's going to take energy and time. So I'm going to be here a little bit longer. And he's like, oh, that's totally okay. I'll keep the car for longer. I'm like, okay, all good then. Next month comes lease payment, doesn't pay it. I'm like, hey dude, where's the money? And he's gotten $1,700 in parking tickets by now. Wow. In 3 months, who the fuck gets $1,700 in parking tickets? $1,758.
Oh, he's driving your Mercedes.
He's like, yeah, you're just parking it wherever he wants and does not give a shit. So I'm like, okay, this is bad. Like that's a bad side. It's just like, who does that, right? Yeah. That's a bad side. And so the next month doesn't pay me. So it's 2 months late and the money keeps coming out of my account. Next month doesn't pay. And now I'm hounding him like, dude, that's quite a bit of cash, right? Like what's going on here is $2,400 every month coming out with the insurance every month. So it's like next month, same thing. So it's like, he owes me like $8,000 at this point. And then I find out and I was really like losing a lot of sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, feeling really shitty about the situation. I was angry.
Yep.
Because I was like, how could this guy do it to me? Like, I'm not there to do something about it. I'm super angry. Like, I feel wronged. And my ego was very triggered by this. Like, I couldn't be there to do something about it. And I just would dream about cutting his hands off, like crazy shit, like super violent. Like, it was really insane. And I was in this meditation retreat and I kept thinking these hyper violent thoughts and like how I would get away with it. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're in like, I'm literally in a monastery, like an actual Buddhist monastery. I'm at this silent meditation retreat. I'm thinking
it's all there to come up.
Right? Just in silence thinking about like kidnap and torture. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is not, obviously I had to experience those thoughts in me because I felt those things, but then I had to keep bringing it back to like, it's going to be okay. Like, you'll figure this out. Don't worry. Like, you know, it's like, it's going to be okay. And then when I get out of the meditation retreat, I find out that actually he's a huge scam artist and he's done this to many people. And my $8,000 he owes me is the second smallest amount that he's robbed anybody of. Actually, he's taken like life savings and bankrupted single mothers and elderly people, and it's like $2 million so far that we know of. And some of the one person got 600 grand taken from them, another 60 grand here, 100 grand here, 30 grand there. Like, it's a quite a bit of, and he's just rotating people's money and scamming them. And he targets women, and then specifically goes after women because then when they get upset, he'll threaten them. Whereas he never uttered a threat to me. And there's a couple other dudes that he did this to that were looking for the guy now, kind of, it's like big deal. And so I had to get the car taken back. It's just this whole crazy situation. And it was taking up so much energy for me. And then that whole thing of like, what did I do to call this in? And that whole like spiritual bypassy thing was like coming up for me, where I was like, okay, like, what did I do to call this in? I was like, is it a crime that I wanted a nice car? It's like, well, like, you know, and then the situation changed that I had to be out here longer. Like, what did I do to call this in? And I had to like meditate on that. And the thoughts were like, there's a part of me that this is my karma. And that's something that I was like, okay, like I can accept that on some level. I deserved this. But I was trying to figure out how and why. And then there's the other side of it. Like, no, but also this guy's just a massive piece of shit that does this to people. And this is how he rolls. And I trusted him because we had mutual friends, and he scammed many people. And the whole community now is like shocked that this guy's actually like a horrible person. So where's the line there of like, I deserve this? And, you know, but I'm like, well, our friend was a cop, and I thought he was going to be able to help with the situation, but he didn't want to get involved. He's like, get police, get lawyers, like, you know, go the legit route. And I thought he would like talk to him for me or something. And that wasn't, he didn't want to get involved in that, which I was also like, bro, come on. And that was my ego.
Drive over.
Like, do something. Like, you are a mutual friend, you know? So I was like, it was a weird situation to deal with. What about that would you tell me to alchemize? What would be your insight for it to help me have a better perspective on that situation?
Well, you know, the first thing that comes up for me is like, dude, you're fucking awesome. And the fact that you just said this guy has scanned hundreds of thousands of dollars. You had like $8,000 before you were like, okay, something's off here, right?
I knew something was off at like $3,000. It took a lot of energy to get to at that point.
And one thing that you're pointing to though is that when we notice like, if we don't allow, like, as you were mentioning before, it's like, oh, like emotions, different things, we kind of do this. When we realize that's when our life stays hectic and chaotic, or it's like dense and it's like hard to pull your energy together. And it's why shifting your state is so important. It's why, you know, being like recognizing something within me, this does not feel good. I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I want to beat the fuck out of him. Oh, I had that for a while about a certain human.
What's up with the middle of the night thing?
Yeah, it's just because we're in etheric realms. So I'll go woo-woo goddessy on you. It's like we're connected to the multidimensional. We're actually, I mean, the contracts that you have with these people in other lifetimes, as well as like what else it brings up, that's actually being healed and worked through. So you can actually, that's why you wake up and you'll have these dreams. Maybe you're like, it was this person. Like if I was like, I was with Aaron, but it wasn't Aaron. It looked like somebody else, but we were in the same experience, kind of like we are in now, because you have lots of timelines of lifetimes of the experiences that you're having that you're giving the opportunity to alchemize or just have the vastness of experience in to make sense of like the remembrance of all that we are. Right. So, you know, that's why the nighttime thing happens. And yet when you're like, man, this is not, let's go back to, I told you how I had like a really near death incident the other day. And I was like, it just made me realize holding on to any fear or anger or letting this experience continue to take up any of my energy, not fucking worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth it. I'm here to live my life. And when I come back to whatever my attention is on is what I'm going to create, right? Whatever label or meaning I give something is what's going to happen. So I have also struggled in that place of like, how do I not just see it through the right light, right? Do all the alchemy and be like, I'm so grateful, this is my beautiful opportunity. And these are all the things I learned. Because you already found a lot of gold. You're going to find, okay, I could see how I was in my ego, or I could see how I got to learn this, or this taught me this. Like for one of my recent experiences, I was like, it taught me what I will never tolerate again in my life. And I could see, so if we look at how was I vibrating it and open up the perspective, because if we go, well, you are what you attract, right? How did I attract this? And it's coming from a blaming kind of energy. That's not going to really serve us. I think everything, when we start to see it as everything really serves us, how did I attract this? I attract what I am. So we can go, how have I ever been a douchebag? How have I ever lied to someone? How have I ever taken advantage of a situation? How have I ever been manipulative? Even if someone felt like you manipulated them and it wasn't your truth, you might have like felt like, you know what I mean? Like you thought you were clear and someone else saw their story, their perception was you were the victim or you were the villain and they were the victim, right? And so we can look at it from that point. But what I find interesting is when, like in my recent experience where I attracted a relationship experience that was, wow, it was like, I was really like, how the fuck did I not catch these things? I was in high discernment for so long, but if it's not consciousness and this, I'm not really interested, and was very like fully with myself for a while to do that. And what I learned was I trust everything people say, and you were like, babes, not everybody's like that. I'm like, but if I'm in integrity and what I say is what I mean, and I can't tell you I'm going to do something without doing it. And this is like the level I assume if you tell me you're going to do something, that if you say you are this person, you're that. And I got to learn that people would pretend to be a lot of things and then not be it. And it took me like, then I'm like trying to understand and trying to figure like, so my pattern was, how do I get to better communicate? How do I get to better, play with this energy? How do I get to better understand? And it was always looking at what I got to do better. But if you're not also willing to match someone who's doing the work also, that's when I was like, oh, I got this lesson to see like what I will no longer tolerate, what my boundaries are, what like does not align my life. But I could see vibrationally. So this is where I'm going, is that I could see vibrationally, oh my gosh, it reflected my dad. It reflected my biggest programs and fears of the masculine, which was like, I have to tiptoe around and make sure you're happy, or, I'm not safe. Because you could lash out or you could get bothered, or because they didn't have emotional maturity. And I was like, oh, even though I'm at this level and I thought I'm in, conscious relationship, this is easy, right? We all are doing our thing. Oh, there was this level of programming I still had that I got to really face and respond differently to, right? Until I respond differently to it. So when we come back to the context, like the experiences you're having are simply there for you to respond differently to, that you now are like, you got this, universe, my high self, I'm clear. Like, this is what I now choose. If in my experience, if I would have had the situation you did, and like I've had many of those experiences, and I just do the inner alchemy of like healing, I see it through this, that, and this is what I'm learning, stand and be like, okay, let's call that out, motherfucker. That's not okay to do with other people, right? Like, let's, how do we stand in our truth that more single moms don't get taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
And so that we have the next level of alignment that's really there for us. So, I think both are required.
Yeah.
Both are required.
I was wondering like, where's the line there? But I think you're right. There does need to be a look at it of like radical accountability and what you're discerning to bring into your life, as well as other people are fucked and people are going to do fucked up shit. And we need to like those are both the same point, I guess. But also, what are you doing to call that in? And, my favorite Muslim quote, I'm not Muslim, but I just love this one, is like, trust in Allah, but tether your camel. And it's like,
did I tell you my spiritual teacher gave me one that was, in God we trust, everyone else we verify.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's good.
That's fire. In God we trust, but everyone else we verify. Right. Absolutely. Especially in a social media world. Yeah. And what came up for me while you're saying that was like, okay, so this guy turned out to be a massive fraud, and he was being like a financial entrepreneur on Instagram, trying to go viral, and he'd go around the malls in Canada and he'd be like giving people $100 to give them if they have a good business idea. Like that was his viral content grift or
Mhm.
something. But he turned out he wouldn't even give them the $100 or something. And it was like, okay. Then so he was getting this clout trying to be a viral, you know, dude. He'd pull up in my Mercedes too and make this content, and it was the cringiest content.
Look how abundant I am. I'm riding a Mercedes.
He had this one that went viral, and it's so ridiculous because he pulls up and he says, he goes, all you bitches that think you're too good to drive a guy who drives a Toyota, and you want a guy who has a Mercedes, why don't you humble yourself like your mom did? And then he drives off. And that was like what he says. So it's like the cringiest shit. And you're like, bro, you can't even pay for that Mercedes. That's my car. You're making
exactly.
So
that's the imagery. That's all an illusion anyways.
And then when you were saying that, I had this realization because I did something personally cringe, and I'll admit it here.
There you go.
Was we had a luxury car rental company while I was in Canada for a bit with a bunch of my friends. And it was my cousin's wedding, and this was on my dad's side of the family, and they're a lot more conservative than my mom's side of the family, and they were quite judgy when I was in my, you know, badass days. Rightfully so. I mean, I get it. They're all like blue collar people. My family's not. They're like, you know, nurses and school teachers.
My parents were janitors.
You know, like, and I was a drug dealer. So it was like, it was like, look, I get they weren't exactly enthusiastic about my lifestyle choices, and they were vocal about it on my dad's side. So they looked down on me, and it hurt a lot then. But now I'm like, well, yeah, like I get it, I understand. Though my aunties who were cool, I'm like, we're still solid. They were like, they still love me, and they were cool because I always was respectful to my elders, and I was a good family member. But I get where some of them weren't stoked about it. And this was the son of my uncle and auntie, who were definitely like very, I'd say, square at the time. They were not cool with it, and they still would hold on to it. So I wanted to make sure I pulled up in the fanciest car to that wedding. And there was this like ego part of me that was like, no, I'm gonna pull up in the McLaren. And it was like, and no fucking way I could afford that like $300,000 McLaren, but I wanted to flex.
Right.
And I pulled the fucking car up to the front of this like golf club, country club, and everybody was already inside, so no one even saw the fucking car.
You didn't think that one through, did you?
Does anyone want to come outside? Like, anyone want to see what I pulled up in? And like, not one fucking family member saw the McLaren I pulled up in, and I was just like, oh, what a missed opportunity! I should have came earlier, whatever was coming, and I was just like, you were being kind of cringe. There was an element of that motherfucker that was in you.
Right.
I was a partner in the company, and we would have access to all the cars, but still I wanted.
And that I need people to see something else of me, you know, all those. And you just go, oh, wow, have I ever done that or been that, etc. The alchemy is required.
Like, I had to see that. And I was like, okay, like how much of you still is hung up on wanting to impress people that you don't really need to impress because your ego was hurt by something that was happened to you that like back in the day, which you also caused. That was also your fault. So it's like, you know, and so I had to like work on that. And I was like, you were being cringe too. And I was like, okay, all right, there's parts of this I can own that are parts of me that called that in. Sure. Like, okay, I can see that. And then by doing that, now I'm like, okay, like you can be much more humble about these situations. And I'm seeing that I'd like to release a lot of attachment to material things and image. And that's why we were talking when we were at dinner, was like, oh man, I actually don't really want to do so much social media shit anymore. Like I actually do want to unplug a little bit from that. And I don't know if I want to be continuing like coaching and putting content around it. It's like, I don't even know. Like I kind of
feels like a game that you're just having to like keep up with an image or this or that or maintenance of it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
It's like, look how awesome my life is. It's like, I'd rather just live the awesome life.
Exactly.
You know, like and that's been swirling in my head. And I've been seeing a few other of my friends that are coaches singing the same thing. Where they're like, like actually I'd like to just live the life instead of having to constantly get the shot, get the content, show people it because it's good for your brand and it's good for getting clients because you have to show the lifestyle that other people want to live, so then they'll invest in you to get that lifestyle.
But it's all coming from a lower vibrational game anyways. You know?
And so like that game, I'm like more and more seeing like, okay, these are the lessons I needed to live at this point in my life because I don't really want that to be the rest of my life. Actually, I'd like to just really live it. And really just enjoy it, actually. That feels way cooler.
I think that's a piece of the alchemy that maybe people don't really talk about a lot, is following your desires and following your energy, following the energy to where you're called to go, because it is outside the box. Hence, we live outside the matrix. You know, you're running these retreats in Bali that people can come and have this experience. We talked about, like, you know, I've run retreats around the world for 14 years. I've been yes-matic for the last 8-9 years, you know.
Asthmatic, that's great. I'm asthmatic.
It's there we go.
I am, but yeah.
Right. But it's like if you hadn't gone through, I mean, we know your story of you like, okay, I'm going to watch Eat, Pray, Love. And I'm going to okay, I'm going to go to Bali, and how your life completely shifted.
Changed my whole fucking life. That's why it's Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah. And for people that don't know that, right? They know like, wow, the intensity of the story that you have. And, you know, like living in the matrix, we're just like, wow, how do you stay that conformed and that locked in? And we keep expanding those ways. I've been offline now for several months. And I told you part of my last level of alchemy was after I completed this relationship, and I, had this, again, witnessed the level of denser energy that I was dealing with that was not in alignment was not a fit for what I ultimately wanted. I had to like muster up the courage to be like, this shit no longer flies. And the moment I did, I manifested $333,000. I got offered this land to buy this land on an island I'd been wanting to get land on. And it just, you know, and I was about to launch again, another program. I'm obviously building the sanctuary, which has like all these things. And it was like, oh, that's super that money's going to help build this and the dark rooms and all the things. And I realized my system was just like, man, I don't want to show up for anybody.
Yeah.
Meaning like, I don't want to play the game. And, you know, it just, my system needed, I had to go through I've been in a lot of my own healing and alchemy. I told you, I'm like, I haven't been on a podcast for a while because I've been in like my bubble of healing.
Yeah, sure. From
this last experience that I went through that really took me to like look at all the aspects of myself that got to be healed as to why I would attract that. And you know, so many layers of that, right? It's not light. We're doing some deep ass fucking work here. And in that was like, it doesn't feel nourishing for my system. And I think one of the things that I'm the most excited about embodying and I'm working on the alchemy with is that it's like, I want to be a fucking powerful woman who's peaceful. Like, I'm zen out, I'm chill. Like, because how many examples, just like you said, there's the masculine side that we're so trained in the like, go, do, accomplish, achieve. I mean, for me, being so devoted to consciousness and divinity, it's always like, what's next? Immersion and experience and thing and this and learn and grow. And it's more like, does it nourish me? And one of those shifts for me was I ended up going, I'm not going to run this program. I refunded people like 30 to 50 grand. And that would have been a story in the past. Like, no, you know, you might as well just do this thing. I was like, even if I'm passionate about doing this thing, if it doesn't feel easy on my system, nourishing, it's not allowing me to live the life that I truly want to live, I'm saying I'll tolerate this until that. And these are just the tiniest micro alignments that we get to go, does my life align to what I'm truly saying I want to be and experience? And for me, it was like, yeah, I just want to be fully living in the experience of what I want. And that's my code for freedom, which is like, there's a lot of things to be alchemized there to like have that code of I can go wherever I want to go, do whatever I want to do, experience whatever I want to experience. So then what in my life gets to be alchemized? If it's the business plan, the level of freedom that you have, etc. I released doing social media a couple months ago and was just like, told my team, like, just chill out. Like, I just have no desire right now. I get to be in my own healing bubble. And what's interesting is as soon as I let that go, I literally had other ways that money popped in and like I paid back 30 grand. I got 60 grand.
Yeah. Like
I had a client pop in, an old client, a high level client was like wanted me to coach them. I'm like, oh, easy, super easy. And so life will give you the opportunity to then have the things to align to that.
Yep.
But you've got to do the clearing first.
Yes. That's the thing that I really think ties this all together and that I totally align with is when you do the deep inner work and the deep, like the work on yourself and what you can control within yourself, it sets the temperature dial in your life of like what you'll attract in and to fix things. So it's like, okay, as soon as I've let go of like feeling shitty about a situation or forgive a situation or like let go of the drama around it, opportunities come my way very quickly and I manifest like really interesting shit very quickly. But it all depends on like, how am I aligning in here? And so anytime I'm like, incongruent or messy or just feeling like that's just not
what you're going to attract, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm like, find peace within yourself. I went to this meditation retreat, got out of the meditation retreat, and I manifested in like opportunity. I was like, bro, how many times have you ran that loop? So anytime you're going through some crazy shit in your life, work on yourself and go find peace within your heart and make peace with the situation, and you'll attract in peace within your life.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah.
It's like your energetic standard.
Yeah.
You know, and so again, when I looked at this relationship experience that I had been through, that I was really like, oh, I'm in the highest discernment. I was like, when I raise my energetic standard, I can't, now I'm like, oh, I'm so clear and aware. I see through so many more illusions that I might not have seen before.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like now my standard is so much higher, but the attunement I live in, like in the people that I choose to give any energy to, people that get into my world, it's like, we're like, like, right? Like we're that. And, and I can see the illusions of anything else. So of course it's always force. It gives us so much. But this is why for me, it's like, if I'm not at peace with it, it's showing me there's something inside that I get to alchemize. Like peace is my highest priority. Is one of my key codes. I like that. Peace is my highest priority. Yeah. If I'm not at peace with you, okay, what's triggering? What's allowing me to see it? And there's just alchemy that gets to happen so that we, like you said, it's really going to give you the greater experience. So I think something you said earlier around like, when we can catch it in the beginning, this is when it's so much easier. When we start to practice, so say all emotions are okay, all thoughts are okay. I would just, you know, here's an example. I'm at the gym and this woman, like she's right? Like she's confident. She's doing her thing. And I notice I have this human judgment thought that's like, oh, she thinks she's this shit. And I was like, interesting. Like, why did I have interesting that I had that thought? And I just noticed like, oh, why am I uncomfortable? Why am I triggered? Like she's so confident. And I noticed then behind that thought is, oh, she's so, you know, she's probably cocky and not a nice person. And then I'm like, let me just witness. And I see her like talk to the staff. I love getting to talk to the staff and the culture and like, you know, when you see someone is being friends with everyone, like they can talk to the janitor and they're just as cool as the CEO. Exactly. Me too. I'm like, and she's like jamming. I'm like, oh no, that seems so cool. So I'm like, I have to look at what within me doesn't feel that confident, that I wouldn't walk around the gym and be like, I don't know why I do the things I do and the things come out of me.
I think you painted a perfect picture. And I absolutely love that.
But I could have been like, you know, like, I'm judging. Now I'm the judger and I'm judging her and let this like take it out of like witnessing that this is not going to give me what I want. Yeah. This is not in alignment with my life. This isn't coming from a heart-centered place. Like when we become so aware, we notice where anything is off. Like it's not in the highest alignment. Mm-hmm. And so what I call myself to is what I get to do to alchemize that. So like I was like, hey, you look fucking good, girl. Right? You look amazing. Yeah. And I'm like, what's your name? And all of a sudden I have a new friend. Yeah. And it just blew out that old program idea that shit could exist, and also showed me, oh, where have I not owned my confidence? Or where did she exemplify that? All of a sudden, something that becomes comparison that's a lower vibration becomes celebration.
I like that.
I can celebrate you, babes, and thank you for being the example to me of what I get to grow in. So when we start to flip, like, again, this is why I like, oh, everything is our opportunity, right? Not a problem. It's our opportunity. With the huge land project that I'm building, you know, the things that I've been through there. And again, this is where I was struggling with like, how do I call out some of the really jacky, shitty things that people are doing that I wouldn't want anyone else to ever go through. Yeah. Like, you know, to ever go into business with them or do these things that I got to alchemize. And was like, how can you put up with that? How can you deal with that? And I was like, you know, I just had to do all my things and then go, I'm so grateful. I now have the opportunity to expand it into like what it is now. It's magical now. If I would have let it go down that road, it would have been shit. Yeah. And whatever is going to fucking support you, to choose the label you give it, to choose the meaning you give it, because then that's what it will become. Yeah. Right. But if I hold on to motherfucker like screwed me over and did this to me, then we are just playing that victim role. So there's a difference circling back to where we started.
I know it's hard.
There's a difference between, I can tell you I'm really frustrated. This really hurt. I'm noticing all these triggers. This feels fucking wrong and upsetting. And I can be in my, you know, share of this, but then I'm going to like, okay, what do I get to do with this? Yeah. And you are like, epic example, my friend. Like, I fucking love this man. I love and adore you.
I love you too.
More than human words. But I mean, I remember being with you. You're in your house, like coming to see and stay with you, right?
Yeah. You came and took care of me while I was in a wheelchair.
I did.
That's love. That's a homie.
I
right
did.
There.
And like the level of your commitment and devotion to oh, this is where I'm going. Doesn't matter what the doctors are saying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to walk, and this is like, and you were very like, let's break it down to every single day. I mean, I have that mask inside of me where I love to track every day. Did I do my meditation and my breath and take my dancing, my nature time? And did I like do my face yoga and do like
face yoga?
I'm doing all the things, babe.
Love
right.
it.
And it's like, there is that mask inside of like, how do I support myself in the practical tools? I'm very much a like, let's bring it down to like the practical things that we get to do. And I'm also very much multidimensional feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it is a harmony between the game, but to witness you, like, it didn't matter what story you were being given by anyone outside of you. I saw your level of like commitment to, I'm going to fucking walk, and this is going to be just, this is the pathway. This is what I'm doing. Like you had, and the label, and every time I heard you speak, it didn't mean that you didn't have, a lot to like alchemize.
Oh, and it was fucked.
It was a lot of frustration. Yeah. I mean, even when you have an experience where your body's off all, people get sick for a few days and like, or get knocked out from doing business for a week or two because they have a sickness or an injury. They're like, oh my God, it's so, if you're on crutches, the level of you're like, I can't reach the thing on the top fucking shelf, right? And how do I get to reorganize my life? But to have, that you could be so clear on also what you were choosing to speak into. Mm-hmm. So there is very much I can experience and express what I'm feeling in these emotions, but I'm going to choose the story I give it, the label I give it. I'm going to choose where I give direction, because your viewpoint, your attention, all that is creating. It's reality creation.
100%. And I gotta like give a lot of that credit to, I was in Bali with the right people around me. I think if that happened back in Canada, it's a lot easier for me personally. I think I would have been surrounded by more of a
poor you kind of mentality.
Yeah. I think it would have been a bit different, but all my friends here are fucking gangsters in the sense of like, do this, don't be a bitch about it, get over it. And like, there for me. They were really there for me. All you guys were really there for me. But like my masculine friends were just like, take these supplements, do this thing. We'll come visit you tomorrow.
Your feminine friends, I was like, what's going to fulfill your desires?
Yeah, totally. Like, what should we order? Here's these sweet, like it's super sweet, absolutely fulfilling desires. And then the other end of it was like, so I had the right people around me. I think that's one thing about this island is the nature is incredible, of course. The Balinese culture, my favorite people on the planet. They're super sweet, amazing, right? It's far away from the matrix, so you get away from a lot of this conditioning, and that's what first drew me in here. But the people you meet, the expats, like the people that you can have around you to change your perspective can absolutely massively change your entire life. So it was like I had all these people around me that were giving me these little nuggets that were completely reframing how I was dealing with my current situation. Yeah. And that is so incredibly valuable. It's so incredibly valuable that I was like, wait a minute, if I just look at all these situations differently by hearing this, it just changes everything for me. And so it's like who you get to bump around with and meet is incredible. Time. Like when would we ever become to be such good friends? We wouldn't have met each other if we were both where we were living in our lives. But here you get to meet that. So it's like even coming here for a week,
so life-changing,
can change your absolute change your whole life. And that's what happened originally for me. Was I came here for a month, extended for 2 months, and it hooked me in. And that first week that I was here, the second day I was here, I met one of my business partners that is a partner with me at Karma House, and I just was like, saw a dude with a Canada leaf tattoo on his arm, and we're at the yoga barn, and I had just finished a yoga class, and there was a whole bunch of these young, hot, hippie looking people waiting for ecstatic
Bali
dance.
is filled with very sexy people.
It's a
that's for sure.
Sexy place. But I was like waiting. I was just getting a bite to eat after yoga, and I was like, why is there so many hot people here? And it was before ecstatic dance on a Friday night, which I had no fucking clue what an ecstatic dance was. I was like,
that's a whole game changer.
Where's the bar?
For someone that hasn't experienced
I still had drug dealer earrings on. So I was like, what is this place? And I saw this dude with the Canada leaf tattoo. I'm like, oh, hey, you're from Canada, huh? He's like, oh yeah, man, I'm from Vancouver. I'm like, oh shit, me too. Where do you live? He's like, downtown. I'm like, I live downtown. Where? He's like, Yaletown. I'm like, I live in Yaletown. I'm like, what street? He's like, where was he? Nelson. I'm like, I live on Nelson.
Oh, wow.
And we lived 1 block away from each other.
Wow, yeah.
So it was like instantly we're like, what the fuck? And we're just friends from then on.
Yeah.
And it was like that one little like crazy situation where I was like, wait, you live here part-time? Like, wait, what?
Like,
yeah, like complete
expand your brain.
Wait, that's possible?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then I started going to the gym, and I met another dude at the gym. I actually saw him today at the gym, so it was super crazy. An architect from Germany named Alexis, and he was there, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I helped him like rack something, or I got something from him. So just like a random gym bro interaction, struck up a small conversation. I'm like, oh, you live here? He's like, yeah, I build villas. I'm an architect. I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
And so all of these like little things like added
Bali
up to
isn't
me.
just a vacay place.
Yeah,
I can
like,
be in this environment.
I could live here. And I met another dude at the gym who was building an Airbnb villa. And I'm like, you're building your own villa to then rent out? I'm like, cool. And then my first business here was an Airbnb villa. Me and that guy are still friends today. Close friends. He was also taking care of me during the accident. And so it was like all of these like really funny little mini interactions like changed my whole life within that week. I think also because I was open for it and I needed it.
Yeah.
So like, okay, this retreat that I'm hosting in January, I think it's perfect for people who are open for something different. Like they're open for a change, whether they want to move to Bali or not, or they just want to see that there's so much other shit in the world. And I think that's perfect because people who do follow us, especially people who are multidimensional goddesses or resonate with them, would be open to this world of possibilities. And so when you're open to it, you end up calling in those little mini interactions. Like it just happens. So when you go to somewhere so charged like Bali and you're open for these interactions, you cannot help but meet the right people at the right time. It just happens.
I think this is one of the greatest ways to catapult, quantum leap your life experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a huge proponent for experiential training.
Yeah.
I mean, I ran medicine retreats all over the world. I mean, 8 years ago when I left California, I had the Magical Manifestation Mansion. I had $1 million clients. And I would have been at the top of what people think is the success game. And it was like, my soul was calling me somewhere else. And I was coming to the realization that it felt like I wasn't even at the foundation of self-realization for my soul. Like, I mean, that was 8 years ago. I've been through a lot. And there's, so many, like I was just called to these places. I got my spiritual name from an enlightened master in India. And, I was in the deepest immersions, from darkness immersions to you name it. Those experiences massively shift my cells, my imprinting, my programming, everything. And so I would see it with people that would come to my retreat experiences. And this is why I love that you're doing the retreat thing, especially like to have like the perfect mesh of all that you're creating here for Bali, like the play, as well as the development, and that the alchemy processes and stuff, because that is where people go, they've just become someone different. Yeah. And when you've got a new set point to know what's available and become someone different. And I always love the analogy of like, let's say that you want to become a swimmer. I shared this one with you, right? Where it's like, and maybe I had trauma with the water and I had scary experiences swimming as a child. And so I have but I want to become a swimmer. I can talk to a coach about it. I can process. We can do parts work. We can do energy work.
What does water mean to you?
We can do all these things. Yeah. We can mentally masturbate. We can talk about all these things, right? And until I get in the fucking water, I'm not going to have a different experience, right? And so there is it's like, Bali for me is, I think Bali's been labeled as kind of like the heart chakra of the planet. I always, when I started coming here, again, 8 years ago, I started coming here, and then I'd pop all over the world wherever I was called to do retreats and all these immersions, these experiences. And then I'd come back to Bali and be like, and it felt like I just wanted to drop in, and I got so nourished by being here. But it would always felt like that everyone else who was just not going to play in the matrix game anymore. Yeah. It's almost like the conscious communities of Bali are people that have been like, okay, I'm just not going to buy into living in my set country with these rules and these ideas. And they kind of merge and find their way here. And we have this beautiful collaboration of worldwide, amazing beings. And so you do, and synchronistically, naturally, effortlessly, like, you're one of my besties. I love. And I'm like, you were a drug dealer in Canada. Yeah. I was a Mormon girl in Utah. I was raised Mormon. That's so hilarious. I mean, I was married at 21 in the temple, virgin till I was married, did all those things. Wow. That's why I had my boys at 23 and 26 years old. And I mean, my life experience is so vast and glorious, but Bali was just like, I was like, whoa. It just that's one of the places of alchemy is when we look for the possibilities of what else. Sometimes we have no idea. It's like we're a horse with blinders and we don't know all this is available. Yeah. And so when you can at least support yourself by choosing in on an experience that is going to completely awaken, mind expansion as to not only the lives that like what kind of life you can live. I would have never thought, I mean, my big game back when I found out I had a cheating husband and got to go down this journey of consciousness with my boys when they were literally 1 and 4 years old was when like I really started the consciousness journey, like really, really. And, my big game was like, I just want to be able to feed my boys and put a roof over their head. Not like now I'm like, my game is I want to go wherever the fuck I want to go, whenever I want to go there with who I want to go with and do whatever the fuck I want to do. And I've built and created my life to reflect that. Like I'm unapologetically expressed, if you couldn't tell, right? Like I was like, babes, I'm just gonna wear the bikini because I always wear a bikini. Like I'm like, do I need to put on a shirt for a podcast? I'm like, you're like, you do what you want to do, babes. I'm like, okay, this feels good, right? I don't give my mental awareness or energy to what are people gonna think and are they gonna approve of me? I let go of that shit a long time ago.
No.
Right?
You're like Ginger Spice and Sporty Spice put together that did an ayahuasca retreat. Like that's the getup that I see today. Sorry. I had this idea for the retreat thing. It was like, when I came to Bali the first time, I was really stuck in my story of like, I'm this drug dealer guy that, and it was a really big part of my identity. And then when I saw it didn't fucking matter here, it was so liberating because I could stop. I didn't have to hold on to the story. Yeah. And then when I moved here, I was like, okay, I'm going to choose who I want to be for the rest of my life. And it was like, cool. I'm going to choose to be someone who's kind, trustworthy, very generous, does charity work, like a good person. Like,
I just want that totally describes you that I know.
I chose that though, because before that I was outside of society. I didn't have any like roots in the community because I was a criminal. Like I didn't want to be known. And I wanted to be a big shot, but I didn't have it was just some bullshit. And so like, I didn't respect who I was. I was ashamed, honestly. I was just like, well, who am I? If I died that day, what would people remember me as? It's like, he bought all the shots in the bar. Like, this is some bullshit. And I was like, that's not who I want to be. Yeah. Who would I want to be known as? And it was like, I want to be someone who's good to people. And I want to be someone who's loved genuinely by many people. That's what I want in my life. And I was like, okay, well, what would that person do? So I kind of like architected this set of behaviors that would make this person that I'd want to be. And so what I was thinking was for the retreat was to jump on a call with everybody before they come and be like, okay, you can come as who you are now or come as who you want to be.
I love that.
And like pick what you want the rest of your life and then come and be that person on this retreat for the whole week. And don't make it some bullshit
facade. That's an imprinting alchemy.
Exactly. So don't be like, I want to be a penguin and come and be a penguin on the retreat. I mean, realistically, like if you want to be empowered, if you want to be confident, if you want to be genuinely loving, like if you want those things in your life, come and do it in this space with new people you interact with, and then let that sink in and then have all these experiences as that person. And then let that sink in. And then I'm going to put them through all these cool experiences like water blessings and breath work and
so good.
And go paint the kids' school that we do the charity work with. I do all these like cool things that are like experiential dope shit.
Right.
But do it as that person.
Yeah.
And how would that person laugh and interact and care and share and like what would that person talk like? And go be that person for a week in an epic new place where you're not surrounded by your conditioning at your house.
Exactly. And that's a big part of the alchemy shifting is why, I mean, I loved dancing all over the world that I did. Like I was in a different country every month or every 2 months and running retreats and doing the things. But it's like, it's such a big shift for, like you just mentioned how recently after, going through the last couple of months of coming off of the pain pills and right and stuff, you're like, you went into the meditation retreat. Yeah. Like that you needed an environmental shift. Yes. This is huge because we're so used to day by day. There's when I really break down imprinting with people and recoding. I teach like encoding and recoding and different things. And it's like in their environment, even if they're like every single day when I could, walk in front of the mirror and you do something in particular, or in this room, I feel this way, or I go to work and I have this idea and feeling about my boss, you're always like re-neural pathway. You're recoding the same environmental shit. But when you have to shift your environment, all of a sudden everything's new and different. And it's like a state change. It breaks up that vibration that it's all of a sudden like, oh, I'm taken out of that normal looping. And it brings an opportunity that you can recode new neural pathways. So I think, getting to, if you're someone who's like, I want to experience more freedom, but you're so stuck in that, the normalcy of what you believe life and the patterning is. And all of a sudden you go into like an experience that you're having and it's wow, opens you up to where it's like, wow, this is possible and available. And how do I get to create this and do something different? So I think that's a big part of alchemy.
Yeah.
It really is.
I think that'd be cool. I was thinking about that while we were talking. I was like, I think that would be a really cool thing to like play with the group on and that they would get lots of benefit out of. Because what I want them to get out of this retreat is like what happened with me when I came to Bali, and it changed my whole world and how I think. And I wanted to like facilitate that with all my favorite shit in Bali too. So it's not like a bunch of touristy crap. It's the things I actually love doing that are like hidden gems that I really enjoy that had a big impact on me. So facilitate those experiences plus deep personal development work, plus it's hilarious and fun. So like that's
there
like,
you go.
That's what I would want to go to.
Thing ever.
Yeah, it's like what I would want to do. So it's like that's what I want to host for people. So I think that'll be cool. If you're listening to this, come to my retreat.
Yes.
It's gonna be dope.
Yes.
Yeah. Message me.
And if you and the crew come by my field at all, I can wave and say hi.
I can't wait for your project to be done.
Thanks.
I'm gonna come do your darkness retreat.
Yeah,
for sure. Sure. Can I be one of the first? I want to be one of the first.
Yes, you totally can. I already have friends like lined up. Okay, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's just a part of it. It's like the sanctuary is a place for workshops, trainings. It's a place of, is what I was called to steward this land, to bring forth, which is this amazing space for transformational change. And also epic shit, right?
Yeah,
like we're going to have like family dinners, sunset dinners, and, kirtan and ecstatic dance and all these amazing things. But there's dark room immersions. There's the creation studio, podcasting, filming, production room. There's the community living. There's there's so many things. So that's been a big project.
It's a beautiful project. Like it's super cool when you showed me the designs on it. But the darkness retreat is something that's been calling me a lot lately. And I might do one next week with my buddy Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
So it's been calling me.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking scared of it because that's the one thing I haven't done yet, because I'm like, yo, like 3 days in complete darkness and silence by yourself seems like a form of torture. But
such bliss.
If you ninja that shit,
you do. And I get the first one I went through was rough.
Okay.
But like the second one was fucking glorious. But I have a lot of codes for that I'm
definitely calling you before I go.
Yeah, we get to jam out because the things that I was called to do for like even my last one I did, I fasted for 4 days prior. I dry fasted for 5 days in.
Whoa.
And I water fasted the last day before coming out.
That's gangster.
Yeah. And by day 3, I was nonstop light codes, sound codes. It was nonstop. I was already DMT'd up, right? And it was like, I feel like I got some and it was again direction that was preparing me and telling me what to do to be able to have like a greater experience in a state for that. So I think it's such a powerful journey because you do get to be with yourself fully. Yeah. And I have had people like, that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I also like my soul is longing for it again. This is why I'm like, I'm going to build one. So I just have my own to go into. Like I could, even if you go in one day a month or one day every so often, it does so much regulation for your system. But it does take a couple days with our wiring where it's been like to actually like let your nervous system regulate and settle. And also a lot of this stuff to just move through your system. But then this is where it's like these things come up that we haven't allowed ourselves to fully be with. But when you do learn to really alchemize and allow those things or be with those things, again, anything that we're in resistance to, like we're binded to it. It binds it. It constricts it. The moment we bring in acceptance, that's why we can go, I appreciate, what can I appreciate about this thing? This thing is, what is this thing teaching me and serving me? And I can appreciate, right? Or allow, it opens it up. It's like allows the energy to flow for the solution to come about, right? Mm-hmm. So it really is just when I can allow those things to move through, for me, it was fucking bliss. It was like, but I'd done a lot of work. And and the first one was really rough. I remember I like literally crawled out of the first one. Like I crawled out. I was like, the light.
Did you fast the first one?
I did.
Oh, God.
The first one it was just I channel with light beings and they were like, fast. That was just the direction I got. And so I fasted through that one. I water fasted through, which made it a whole nother level because you had no idea if it was day, night.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times I was in Guatemala and I was in one and I was like in this concrete little Buddha temple thing up in the mountain. And every once in a while I thought I could hear like a boat way down on like Lake Atitlan. And I'm like, does that mean it's day? Does that mean it's night? Or I might hear like and so your environment makes a really big difference. But I didn't have anyone bringing food or anything,
Yeah.
I was
that would be like a tether right there.
Where it's like, okay, it's breakfast. Or even if you can't tell, it's like, oh, I'm eating food. They brought me food,
Sure.
It's been another day, etc. I took all that out for my own.
That's gangster.
My own next level of what I was called to.
Yeah.
So
I get it though, because sometimes like the last meditation retreat I did, And then sometimes I'd just be in such a great space that I was like, oh, we gotta eat lunch right now. It could be a distraction and take me out of it. But then other times you want that distraction because you're so fucking in it. It's so hard. You're like, yay, lunch. Like, it's such a funny game to play. So I'm leaning towards I'm gonna fast for it.
I think there's a great, I mean, I'm excited about creating a training for this for people, because again, even working with medicine for 14 years, I have a whole medicine expansion formula. I teach people to prepare their bodies, not only prepare their bodies physically for it, but mentally, emotionally, all these things, learn how to work with the medicine, learn how to play with the energy. Because otherwise people, this comes up and they don't know what to do with it. And it can create a lot of other things.
Totally.
And so then also the whole scheme of things, all the way to the integration and all that after. And I felt like the darkness is another medicine. It is a consciousness. It is like literally allowing you to regulate and heal and bring up all these things. And so there is like preparing yourself and like, what are the things that I really get to integrate? What are my intentions of things that I'm going to, bring into my system or allow to come through my system? Are you really clear? Like, you're an alchemist, so you're really clear on how to like process those things and move those things through, and then, I mean, from all the massive awarenesses, got so many massive awarenesses, and it's like, how do I integrate this after? Like, what did this show me and how do I get to integrate this? So it's so powerful, so amazing. But I do believe there are some codes to it to up the game to it. And that's just one of them, is that, and so for me, I'm excited that people could really get supported in, are they juice fasting or water fasting, or, or are they just doing lighter meals or things, letting their body, because a lot of that stuff gets in the way of our processing. This is why, I mean, one of the things I teach in my Align to Manifest and my masterminds of like, bringing every aspect of life into alignment, because that's really what we're here for. Again, it's like, why would I just settle for good or great when I can have fucking fantastical everything? Like, that's really what we have the access to. So when we, get to look at each of these areas, how we get to alchemize something, that's what's available. That's what's available. So yeah.
I think the next podcast we do together will be after I do your darkness retreat. And we'll jam and talk about it, and we'll get to talk about the sanctuary that's done. Hopefully, if not sooner. But that's what I want to see. I want to manifest that right now, and just like, that's going to happen.
You'll be one of the first to go through it.
That. Thank you so much for coming down today and being here today. And thank you so much for bringing such an incredible energy into my life and being such a caring friend and having my back during the accident. I'll never forget that, just how giving and caring you were, and just how sweet and amazing you are. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I love you. We love you. Come to Bali.
Come to the retreat, guys.
Yes,
and
for
hopefully we'll bring you down to Ulu and show you her space.
Peace, homies. We'll see you on the next episode. Alchemize your bullshit. Get through it all. And thank you, Lighthouse Studios in Bali, for hosting the Ink Pray Love podcast and so many other amazing things. So come check it out. Peace, homies. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as, if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.aaronbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by Lighthouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all, I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.